That's the beauty of chess. Yeah. Chess is not gender sensitive.
Yeah.
It is our hope. Let us see whether the Toritsemuwa will be able to give a disastrous blow. The way Femi is looking, is looking as if, oh my God, he is not going to take anything for granted. Yes, we have the arbiter, that is
Arbiter Obina. International Arbiter
Obina. And he is going there, he's administering the oaths, and he's trying to, don't mind that he's backing the camera, because right now he needs to administer the oaths, and immediately after that
the game will
commence. So what we are witnessing there is the oath being administered by Obina Ogbonaya, international arbiter, one of the, or not one, the only coach in Nigeria, chess coach that is certified by the World Chess Federation. That's FIDE. Okay, right now the two players are seated. They are trying to determine. You see what Obina is doing?
Yeah.
He's playing a trick. He's trying to determine who is going to play white and who is going to play black. So the left, right, what? Okay. Right now, once again.
It seems the lady gets the white pieces.
Sure.
Whoa, this is interesting.
The lady will be given an opportunity to make it the first move. So Kennedy, let us hope and let us see quite a lot of excitement. We should expect.
Toritsemuwa has over time she's been pretty consistent, opening up a game as white with the D4 move. Let's see if this will be any different. So here we go. The game starts, and okay, the arbiter is I don't know what. Okay, here we go. Oh yeah, D4. And over time, Femi Balogun has been playing the King's Indian defense religiously. Whenever he sees one D4. Let's see if he will do anything different today. Oh, knight F6, there we have it. Definitely an Indian defense. We do not know. Perhaps it will be a Benoni defense, Grunfeld, King's Indian, pawn to C4, and it's amazing the way these players are looking, so serious. E6, that is new, even for Femi Balogun, that is new. Femi Balogun would usually play G6 in this position, going for a King's Indian defense setup. But here we have Toritsemuwa making a third move, G3. And I'm guessing we are in for one Catalan structure fight today. Wow. Okay. The players are playing pretty fast now. Knight F3. This is quite interesting.
The beauty about chess is the amount of reasoning or the amount of thinking time that is required when the players are need to play their move. Right now, we have quite a number of people who are online watching the match.
Whoa.
Let's see.
I see Oladapo Adu,
Yes,
Adebayo Doris.
yes.
Shout out to you guys.
They are there online, they are watching, trying to see what's right now. Both players, I think it is lack to move, and that is
D takes C4. Now this is very interesting. I think Toritsemuwa has been pretty much consistent with these Catalan structures over time. Perhaps Femi has done some studies and figured he could take on. Maybe he just feels, well, she's a lady, I'm an international master. Perhaps I could just pull a wool over her eye or something. I guess that remains to be seen. But I want to believe Torishe has a little bit more experience in this kind of positions. This is the first time I am seeing Femi playing this kind of structure. Knight BD7, well, that is not exactly the kind of move that the engines are recommending right now, because it's not quite clear what Black is up to. Yeah, we know Black would love to play E5 or C5 at some point in this kind of structures, but I'm not very sure how Knight BD7 in this particular position fits in with that plan, because right now he can't get in E5, and C5 is the move that White would really be happy with, getting another pawn off that diagonal, the H1 A8 diagonal, for the monster light square bishop.
At this point, we want viewers to know that this is rapid chess. The time format is 20 minutes plus
10 seconds added.
Okay,
10 seconds added.
20 minutes, 10 seconds added. If the match meets up to expectation, we believe that for the next 1.5 hours maximum, and we'll still be here watching the two players doing what they do best. Okay? Torishe has made her move, and you can see A4.
Literally cutting that pawn, the black pawn on C4 off from its natural defender, the B pawn. And at some point, we'll probably round it up with Knight BD2 and Knight takes C4. We'll have to wait and see what she has in mind. I'm not very sure what Femi has up his sleeves in this kind of. I think he's thinking from scratch, from move one.
He needs to construct, because I think Torishe wants to deploy an unconventional move against him. I need to reposition.
What I don't get, what's the reason? Why exactly would Femi decide to play this kind of? He knows.
Right now.
This is not his.
Look, he has moved. Yes, that's the appropriate response. A5 response.
A5.
That is the appropriate response.
According to the engines.
It shows he's doing well.
Yes, so far he's doing well.
What we are seeing, Torishe has two options, but the better option is supposed to be. Can we say?
I think
queen move.
I think she has to think of how to round up that pawn on C4 now. Having completed development, having castled her king, she has to find a way to complete development on the queen side. The knight will probably go to A3 or D2 to try to round up that pawn. Maybe queen C2 is a bit better, because you really wouldn't want knight B2 to be met with C3, in that kind of position.
So that is what the engine tells us.
We'll wait and see.
Let us see whether she sees what the engine is recommending. Queen to wow.
Knight A3. Knight A3. I believe that's a bit inferior to Queen C2 or Knight BD2 for that matter. The reason being that with the Queen on C2, you are not only attacking the pawn on C4, you would also be
you are exposed to the bishop
covering E4.
Yes.
Yeah. Now bishop times A3 is possible, but would you really want to capture on A3?
No.
I think it was David Bronstein that he played the game, the exchange royal pairs one time, and he spent 45 minutes
thinking
on the fifth move.
Yeah.
And after the game, he was asked, "Why were you thinking so much?" He was like, "I was thinking of capturing the knight with my bishop, and by doing that, I was going to be weakening." Has he made a move? No, I don't think so. So by doing that, I was going to be weakening 32 light squares.
Yeah.
I needed to
Yes,
know
he has done it.
how. He captures the knight on A3. This is getting really interesting.
I'm pretty sure it's responding appropriately.
The rook captures the bishop. Now this is interesting. White has a little bit more space. She has the pair of bishops, and I'm guessing black is just trying to hold on to the pawn on C4. Otherwise, I can't think of any other reason why he would want to give up his best minor piece, for that matter, for a knight on the edge of the board. We'll have to wait and see what he has in mind to follow that up with. But I don't know. The rook is not very happy on A3, but we would have to wait and see what the international master has in mind. Excuse me.
Yes, Judy Olagno is watching, and
black
is watching the game.
Black castles, and perhaps it's time for white to start to round up the pawn, maybe with knight E5 or perhaps knight D2. Well, knight D2 is probably better. Because now the bishop on G2 is hitting the C6 pawn. Black no longer has E5, but she decides to go for Queen C2. Queen C2 may allow B5, I think. Queen C2 could probably allow B5, but in these kind of structures, every pawn that leaves the light square, especially the H1 to the A8 diagonal, is good news for white. White would really love to have those pawns move to dark squares. I mean, it's a general principle in chess. When your opponent has just one bishop, you want to attack the pawns on the color of the other bishop, forcing those pawns to move to the color of the bishop he has, so the bishop is restricted all the more. Queen C2, I think Toritsemuwa is more concerned with completing development right now. Otherwise, moves like knight back to D2 would have been considered, but right now she just wants to complete development. I think move the pieces that are still on their original squares out first before. I think that's pretty simple enough. Simple chess, easy does it. Queen C2. And now we have Femi thinking. B5. Here we go. B5. Can he hold on to the pawn? B5. Well, the engines at this point suggest a move like bishop f4 for white, and even at that, it's still slightly better for black. But black is a pawn up. That's something we expect the engines to say. For we humans, it's not exactly the same. We have to think of how clear our plans are, and in this position, I think it's easier to play for white. Black is a pawn up. Perhaps he may be able to keep it, but I think it's pretty easy for white to play. The plan is clear: attack all the pawns on light squares on the queen side, force them to move to attack all the pawns on dark squares on the queen side, force them to move to light squares, which she has done, and attack them. Knight e5, she goes knight double attacking the pawn on c6. That is a strong move, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure if she considered the consequences of b4, that intermezzo, because b4, a move like b4 rook back to a1 and knight b6 can be, well, whichever way you could see that white is doing pretty well. After b4, for instance, probably he could capture on c6 first, tempo, attacking the queen, and only then think whether to move the rook depending on where the queen goes. If the queen were to come to c7 or b6, for instance, he has another check, and only then decide where to go with the rook. Maybe, just maybe, black should think about capturing the knight on e5. Oh yeah, he captures the knight on e5, and white takes with the pawn. Now comes knight d5, blocking the bishop on g2 from having access to the pawn on c6. I think the position is pretty complicated now. Black's position is beginning to look very, very comfortable. He has a lovely square on b4 for his knight. The rook on a3 is not very well placed. The pawns cannot be easily attacked. Maybe, just maybe, white should think about a rook d1, queen c7, and then e4. And then the idea is to entrench a rook on d6, perhaps find a way to double up on that file and think of how to play from there. But putting a pawn on e4 now blunts the bishop on g2. True, the bishop could route itself to the f1 square, putting pressure on the pawns on c4 and b5, but it looks like black's position is pretty comfortable at this point. He's not under any pressure. Maybe bishop times a3 was not such a bad idea after all. The lady is sinking deep in thought right now. I wonder what she must be feeling. Now, this is one of the things that amaze me about chess. You know, Femi, for instance, look at the way look at his pose.
He just, the voice shows elegance, it shows nobility.
There's this poker face. You have no clue what's going on in his mind. He's probably praying. I'm like, God, what do I do in this position? Or maybe you just have no clue what he's doing in her mind. And the lady is sinking deep in thought as well. They're just in their own world. I wonder if they even care about the viewers right now. Sinking deep in thought, wondering, how do I get rid of this beast on d4, on d5?
Yeah. Welcome other players who are watching this. Soon and very soon, you have more and more challenges. This is the first pilot of this event. As time goes on, we will get better, I believe, better quality of the production.
Here we go. Rook d1, pinning the knight to the queen. I'm sure she must believe that she has a threat in this position with e4. But perhaps the weak square on b4 shows that, I mean, the geometry, the knight going to b4, for instance, threatens the queen, and from that square on c2 threatens the rook on a3. So perhaps e4 is not a threat right now. I mean, if you were to play e4 and I play knight b4, what do? You cannot take my queen because I take your queen and I'm also attacking your rook. Perhaps that is what the international master is saying, and perhaps he's just going to ignore the threat and play bishop b7. Or maybe he will just play it safe, move the queen to e7, maybe c7, covering c6, and also attacking the pawn. I guess that waits to be seen. a3 to a better square, perhaps return it to its original square. Maybe it will be better placed on c1 after all, and then the Sure. Yeah. The first idea is to play bishop h6, but of course the international master is not going to fall for those kind of moves. Oh, she goes back. Wow, this girl is queen c2, and then c takes b2. That is interesting. Now the pawn is exchanged for another healthy pawn. So it's clear that black now has a queenside majority. Once he plays b4, he would have a queenside majority that he can mobilize. The question now is, can he really mobilize those pawns? Because after bishop takes b2, for instance, the bishop will be threatening to attack the queen from d4 and probably sit on d5. On c5, with tempo for that matter, attacking the rook. And black is a pawn up, but I think white can now start talking about having compensation. Yeah, protected pass pawn for that matter, but without a knight to blockade and all that. But I think white's position is, I think c3 was not such a good move. Maybe the engines were right after all. Maybe queen g4 was not such a good idea. Queen c2 just kind of so it was a really good move. And I don't know what the ladies think. Oh, she captures with b2. She captures on b2. Bishop takes b2. And now I wonder if black is not forced to play c5. Because if he doesn't play c5 now, would he ever be able to play c5 again? I doubt it. With just the knight covering the square, dark square, because the bishop on the light square bishop cannot cover c5 ever, you can see that if he doesn't play c5 now, he may never be able to play c5 again. But playing c5, does that change anything really? Because after a takes b5 and queen takes b5 and maybe bishop a3, attacking the pawn on c5 and defending, then the rooks swimming. I mean, it's going to be an interesting position to play for white. I think white is gradually compensating for the pawn deficit in this position. I wonder what the international master must be thinking by now, staring at the pieces. Knowing Femi over the years, I have come to realize you never really know, just looking at him, if he's winning or losing. He just sits down at the board and just does his thing. I believe that a lot of those times he's probably praying to God or something, because you see him have bad positions sometimes, and somehow, but perhaps he intimidates his opponents with such calm, and I mean, you could literally feel him across the board, imposing his will on the position, even in a bad position, and that is quite scary, the way he's looking at the pieces right now. I wonder what the lady is thinking, because the c5 square, the c5 square, the c5 square, and here we go. Come on. Rook 8 c8. Amazing move. Idea clearly to meet bishop d4 with c5. Wow, I'm not so sure about that move. However, because white is not forced to play bishop c5. We could actually play rook d to c1 in this position, and after rook d to c1, threatening queen c5 and blockading those pawns on the dark squares, I'm not so sure, because bishop c5 can now come at some point in the future, and if after rook d c1, black decides to play c5 now, white just captures on b5, queen takes b5, and once again you have the rooks harassing the queen on b5. But well, we would have to wait to see. Oh, the engines are even suggesting a better move here. Instead of rook dc1, perhaps rook ac1 is even better, with the same idea obviously of queen c5 at some point. With that, white should begin to feel some amount of relief. I think black is releasing the grip sort of in this position. He's slowing down, in my opinion. Already the engines here are suggesting a move like e4, kicking the knight on d5. I wonder what happens after knight b5, queen e2, and because of the c3 move, the knight no longer has the d3 strong square it had in the first position. So here we go, knight e4, knight b5, and then queen b3. Amazing. That is such an odd square. Queen b3. Whoa, that's odd. Queen b3. Okay, if c5 now, we could have a move like b takes, a takes b5, queen takes b5, queen a4, attacking the pawn, or maybe even queen a3, attacking the pawn on the dark square. And, yeah, clearly she has her plans, but one would think that queen c2 is a natural move in this position. Femi takes over, contests the file, rook f d8. Okay. The fight now is going to be around the d3 square. The pawn on c4, fixing the weak d3 square, is gone, but he has not given up on the weak square yet. Also, he's preventing the bishop d4 idea at some point, although I'm not sure if white was threatening to do that immediately. All in all, black is improving his position, and wow, white goes bishop c3, attacking the knight on b4. That's an interesting move, considering that black wanted to play c3 at some point, or even knight d3. So that's quite an interesting move. I think that's just a bad move. Giving up the d3 square for the knight now, and that's got to be bad. I think that's got to be bad. Knight d3 in this position will probably be met with the engines. Knight d3 will probably be met with bishop times a5. I don't know. So perhaps c5 is a better idea in this position. c5, defending the knight, clearing the fianchettoed bishop. But after c5, moves like a takes b, queen takes b, and bishop f1 start to look very strong. In this position, the engines are already saying that black has a clear advantage, and I think that much is obvious. All his pieces are playing; they are well coordinated. Only problem he has in this position is the bishop on b7. It looks more like a tall pawn, but that problem is well taken care of after the move c5, which white has chosen to allow. Here we go, c5. I guess we could say all of black's pieces are playing right now, and c5 is clearly threatening c4, and let's see. A takes b is the natural move in this position. I wonder if the engines will suggest anything. Rook takes d1, no. b6, wow. d6, what happens? Attacking the queen, threatening to double up. That is quite an interesting move, but let's see. A takes b5 looks very natural to me, considering that queen takes b5 can easily be met with bishop f1 with tempo on the queen. The bishop is not very well placed on g2 anymore. Now with the pawn being pushed to c5, the bishop is now tied down to the defense of the pawn on e4. So it's not like it used to be. Yeah, she went a times b5, and perhaps in this position she's already threatening rook d6, because rook takes d6, pawn takes d6, clears the bishop on c3, and most importantly, the queen will have to decide. Rook d6 is more to the point. The idea that the rook captures rook gives white a strong pawn on d6. Okay, the lady is still thinking. I'm sure she must be considering moves like bishop f1 and rook d6. Whoa, this is really amazing. So we have black with a slightly better position now. I think he didn't squeeze for as much as he could in the position, but he still has a slightly better position. His rooks are very well placed. His queen is just very well placed on b5. His knight is a monster on b4. He just has to solve the problems of those the weak pawn on a5 and the strong square on d6. I'm not sure if those are enough compensation for the pawn deficit that white has, but at the end it seems like the game is pretty much balanced. After rook d6, for instance, if white tries a move like c4, you can always play queen a4, and the idea is that you are going to win the pawn on a5. Yeah, you're going to win the pawn on a5. So it's difficult for both players right now, I think. She plays bishop f1. Okay, that has to be bad. According to the computers, the engines are just screaming right now. That's not a very good move. First off, it leaves the pawn on e4 unprotected. Yeah, I get that the pawn is it's a doubled pawn on the e file, and it may not be such a big deal to sacrifice those pawns, but imagine a position with a pawn on e4 off the board. Then black has the d5 square at his disposal, and even more importantly is that he would have cleared the diagonal for his light square bishop. And after queen b6 by Femi, just like the computer recommends, I think it's safe to say that white is positionally lost here, because his best move is perhaps to return the bishop back to g2, protecting the pawn on d5. She would have to admit that the pawn on e4 is a very vital pawn in this position, covering a d5 square. But even if she plays bishop g2, I fear moves like c4 attacking the queen and reacquiring the square d3 for black. You remember black had a pawn on c4 at some point, making the d3 square a very enticing outpost for the black knight. He eventually had exchanged a pawn out for the pawn on b2 by playing c3 way back at move I think move 15. Now amazing. She sacrifices the pawn on e4, playing queen a5. Queen a4, threatening the pawn on a5. Once again, I doubt if that is a good move, because yes, she threatens to take the pawn on a5, but can she really take it? After rook times d1, we have a position where it's like white just wasted a move in that position. It appears white has a lot of weaknesses in this position now. First off, the pawn on e4, and then we have the d3 square that is beckoning on the knight. No, this is just very good play by the international master. Rook takes d1, the engine suggests queen takes d1, bishop takes e4, and I think we can go home. Rook takes d1, bishop takes d4, we can go home, because the bishop just returns back to b7 or maybe to a8, and then she doubles up, sets up a battery on that diagonal, and it's going to be very difficult, perhaps impossible, to cover all the threats on that. Okay, so bishop takes e4 by the international master, rook takes rook, and I think we're nearing the end in this position, because now black has the d5 square. So if white were to try to contest the d5 the d5 right now, he can just put something on d5 square, and well. The extra pawn is now he now has 2 pawns, by the way, so it's pretty clear now. It's pretty clear, but he still has to debate some. He still has to solve some problems in this position. Black is obviously clearly better, but clearly better positions don't win themselves. He has to be very technical about it to prevent any counterplay in the position. Balogun takes with Femi. Balogun takes with the queen on d8, leaving the pawn on a5 to white. I wonder why. One would think that in this position, white wants to have his. One would think that in this position, black wants to keep his queen on the board so that he can, set up the battery we spoke of earlier. But having the queen times a5, attacking the queen, threatening to exchange again. I mean, white would really love to exchange that queen and get it off this board. I think the bishop pair might just be enough. If the queens were to leave the board, the bishop pair might just be enough to hold the draw in this position. So black really needs to be careful to keep his queen on the board for an attack on the black king. Okay, he captures on a5 and rook takes a5. Now we have a very interesting position. Black is still a pawn up, but is it enough? Is it enough? Black is clearly better, obviously, but once again, according to the engines, Femi is not playing this, is not making the best moves in this position. Exchanging the queen has to be a bad idea. On general principles, it's not something you want to do when you have an attacking position. It's not something you want to do, exchanging queens. Here, Femi plays h6. I'm sure he was scared of variations like bishop takes knight, pawn takes knight, bishop takes b4, pawn takes b4, rook b5, and after rook c1, capture the pawn, and now bishop d3 is not possible because of the back rank mate. So he plays h6, getting rid of that problem set. Very technical move. Not in a hurry to do anything. He's probably taking his time to snuff out any counterplay by black. I wonder what black should be doing right now. I once read of analysis of Grandmaster games one time, where some Grandmasters were trying to solve an endgame position, and Capablanca just walked into the room, and he saw how much they were struggling to solve the position. Walked into the room and took the white pieces from the squares, the original squares, and put them on new squares, and like, can you win this position? They said yes. He said, simple. Then find a way to get your pieces to these squares. Over time, that method of thinking about the end game have come to be known as a schematic thinking. So I guess that is what they're doing right now, trying to find out where the best squares for their pieces, or the best squares for their pieces will be. Toritsemuwa activates a rook a7 to the 7th rank. I doubt if that achieves much though, because the weakness on f7 is not something white can get to in a hurry. Meanwhile, the pawn on c5 that was under attack by the rook on a5 was probably a very good job the rook was doing, because the pawn cannot move until the knight moves, otherwise the knight will hang. So the knight would plan to go to d5 at some point, d5 square that the pawn on e4 gave up, and then the pawn will start to move. I mean, the bishop is helping the pawn, the knight will be helping the pawn, the rook is behind the pawn, and you can see that it's black is just playing very well in this position. Kudos to the international master. Here we have knight d5 and rook a3. It's interesting the way this game is going. It seems like the lady is not quite clear what she's trying to do in this position. She has not quite found the optimal placement for her pieces in this position. She just seems to be going back and forth. Maybe, just maybe, she should be trying to get an opposite colored bishop setting. Bishop taking that knight on d5. Unfortunately, if you ever take the knight on d5, you would have the e pawn joining the c pawn, and then I think we can go home. What is this? What is this? Rook b8, I think. The move was rook b8, and then rook b8. What are they discussing? Okay, they've called on the arbiter, and rook b8. Oh, now the players are shaking hands. I wonder what that means, because it doesn't seem like anybody's resigning yet. Okay, Arbiter Obina is joining us in the analysis room now.
Yes, it's nice having these players exhibit their skill. Right now, this is what we call it the test, the first televised chess event that is being streamed live. In a few minutes, we'll be coming back and we'll be doing some short interviews with the two players.